Hello, everybody. I'm Darshana Avila, and this is the first official video for Power to the P, which is the month-long self-pleasure mindful masturbation practice that I am really excited to be sharing about. So just to give you a little bit of insight about who I am and what I'm up to, I am training as a sexological body worker, also known as a somatic sex educator, which I'm really psyched to bring as a complement to my existing work in the world and my offerings as a sex intimacy and relationship coach and a tantric body worker. I found my way to these paths largely because of my own journey. As I was seeking to create more cohesion between my experience of spirituality and what I was experiencing in my sexuality and relationships, principally throughout my 20s, it led me to the path of Tantra, and then all sorts of doors began opening, and it's just been a wild and crazy adventure, truthfully, that has taken me from having very successful corporate career and a life that looked a lot different to where I am now, where I get to spend my days and give my energy to helping people uncover what it really means to them to live in a state of embodied ecstasy, to be connected to pleasure, and to nurture and nourish really meaningful relationships. And part of this training that I'm doing includes homework that is a mindful masturbation practice. And so I got this idea that, hey, if I'm going to do this, let me hold myself accountable by being a bit more public and sharing about my journey. That way, you're helping me stick to my practice, and I hope to help you by offering some inspiration and some insight into how this might be a wonderful foundation for you to go deeper into your own self-exploration. And another layer of this that I'm feeling really excited about right now, we're in tumultuous times, to say the very least. And there's a lot of questions about power. Who has the power? What does it mean to be empowered, disempowered? There are powers that be out there in the world who are making decisions that are leaving a lot of us feeling a bit shaky and questioning, do I actually have sovereignty? Do I have control over how my life is being lived? And something that I know to be true is that deeply connecting to our own bodies and to that inherent source of power that lives within each of us is a practice very worth dedicating time, energy, and resource to. And it's one that helps you, resources you to be able to navigate through whatever is happening in the external realms. So whether that's inside of your personal romantic relationship, if it's with your kids, if it's with your boss, if it's what's going on the political stage, tending to yourself, really, really, really prioritizing your self-care is not just a frivolous luxury, it's a necessity. And that's why it is a caring thing to do, to really, really establish a steady foundation beneath yourself as you go and move through the world and take on all that you're going to take on. So I want to give you a bit of insight then as to what's going to happen and some ways that you can feel prepared to take this journey on for yourself. I'm not necessarily going to be teaching a lot about technique or anything of that nature, although I'm sure I will pop in some little musings about things I'm trying out that work for me. The main pointers, I'm going to lay them out for you now. That way you can take those and integrate them in the ways that feel good to you, and we'll move from that space, each of us in our own practice. So what I know works well on my end, and I'm going to definitely suggest, is that you create a routine and a ritual for yourself around this pleasure practice. Me personally, I'm an early riser. I like to have a morning full of personal nourishment. It helps me feel really resourced to begin my day. And practically speaking, it's just a heck of a lot better to get things done in the morning for me before I start getting busy with work and running errands and tending to phone calls and all the busyness that happens. So I have committed to adding my mindful masturbation practice to my existing morning practices. So what that looks like for me is I do a little bit of journaling, some morning page writing, some silent meditation. I say my prayers and do a bit of ritual in the tantric lineages that I am initiated into, because that's part of my personal value set and what helps me feel grounded. And then I set a timer for 30 minutes. And if I end up going longer because that's what feels good and I have the time available in my day, then wonderful. But I am committing to at least 30 minutes of this self-pleasure practice on a daily basis. And I'm making it a ritual by doing all of those preemptory steps that I just spoke of, to set the space, to really ground my energy, set my focus and my intention on connecting to the divinity in my own body, and to just being curious. Another really, really important piece, to set a goal of not having a goal. Okay, so this is a non-goal oriented practice. And what that means is that your masturbation does not have to happen any particular way. It's not that you need to bring yourself to orgasm. Ejaculation is not a necessity. There's nothing that you have to do or don't do. It's your own practice, and you get to decide what feels in integrity and what feels good to your body. So for some women, for example, perhaps you have only ever used a vibrator and you're curious about what happens if you put your vibrator aside and only use your hands and go manual for this month. You may or may not orgasm the way that you're accustomed to orgasming. Chances are it will be very different. And if you set a goal of not having a goal around a particular kind of orgasm and just simply stay in this curiosity and in the exploration of what arises for you, that to me is time and energy well spent in this practice. If you happen to be someone who has relied on pornography as your main source of inspiration and getting you in that heat of the moment kind of state of arousal when you masturbate, perhaps you start by tapering off and limiting your porn usage. Or if you feel that you can let it go altogether for the sake of this container, again, it's a wonderful chance to just step outside of your norm, go beyond your habituated patterns. If you have always used a particular technique, you go this way or you go that way or whatever it might be, try something different. And a really, really important thing to remember, your entire body is an erogenous zone. It's not just what's between your legs. It's not just about your genitals. So the way I always like to begin my self-pleasure practice is just a little bit of moving my body. Sometimes I'll do that in front of a mirror and I'll get undressed slowly and just enjoy my body and take a moment to praise it, particularly the parts that I'm self-conscious about. My belly or my thighs, maybe my breasts aren't looking as perky as I wish they were, whatever it is on that particular day, in that particular moment, that strikes me as less than. I will spend particular attention and energy just connecting in a loving, energetic way to myself, and maybe even getting hands-on before I lay down and do some full body caressing, massaging. You might do a little bit of tapping or tickling. Different ways, just get your whole body online to start bringing felt sensation, a somatic experience in, and really feeling what's there. And as you begin to feel, you also want to focus on what's going on with your breath. So breath and sensation are two very important factors to consider in any sexual endeavor, really in any physical practice, but particularly for this month of mindful masturbation, paying attention to your breath is really the main focus if there was one. So very often in the more typical ways that many of us masturbate, and I did this for years, it's a lot of very short, contracted breath. You're holding your breath, you're clenching your muscles, you're building toward that peak. Right? You know that one. But what we want to play around with here is relaxed arousal, a spaciousness, where you let that energy and that excitement build, but instead of clenching and contracting around it, you breathe some space into it, slowing down the breath, letting it fill you, maybe pausing a bit at the top, and then exhaling. There are different breathing techniques that you can incorporate, and I'll be providing some resources along the way of books or websites or practices that you might want to check out. But for now, just consider lengthening and deepening your breath, slowing it down, making it fuller. That's going to be a wonderful way to feel more of what's happening in your body as you go through your self-pleasuring journey. And the sensations that are there, be curious about them. Just the other day, I found that I like to move my fingers kind of in between, like a soft feathery touch and a tickle, not quite a tap. It's just like a light pressure. When I move them like this across my breasts, it's really yummy. And I actually never knew that before. I've managed to go nearly 36 years without knowing that. And so it's just this curiosity of, let me try something new. If you enjoy playing with toys, this is a great opportunity to have your stash of toys, supplies, whatever it is that you need readily available when you're practicing, and get curious. If you use lubrication, lotion, oil, make sure you've got your favorites on hand. Personally, I go for organic fractionated coconut oil. So fractionated meaning that it stays in liquid state, and it's really nice for me to be able to put all over my entire body, including my genitals. It's safe for any toys or crystals that I might use, and it's just my personal preference. I also use that with clients a lot as well. And be curious. Like I said, try something new, a different way of touching yourself, a new toy, the idea of going without pornography, and most importantly, just giving yourself the gift of your presence, of committing to this practice, of saying, I am worth 30 minutes or more of my day devoted to my pleasure, devoted to self-nourishment, devoted to really tapping in to my power, which is our sexual energy. Very often we've got this really narrow mindset around what sex is, what it's about, what it's for, what it should look like. And honestly, most of us are pretty poorly informed on that subject matter. It's why it's been such a fascinating thing for me to delve deeper and deeper into. Our life force energy, that creative force that brings life into the world, is the source of our power and our creativity in every possible way. So whether it is that you're looking to transition something big in your professional life, if you're feeling really fired up about what's happening on the political stage now and you want to be spurred into action, if there's a transformation in a relationship that you're calling forward, tapping into your personal power through this practice is a beautiful way to really give yourself that boost. And coming at it with a spirit of curiosity and compassion is really what I always try to instill in my clients and my students. It's what I hold myself to, rather than coming in with a preconceived notion of what's going to happen and a set of standards that I'm trying to reach. Every single time is a new beginning. Every time I come into presence with myself and take this practice on, it's a chance to get to know something maybe I never knew before, a way I like to be touched, an emotion that has been asking to be felt, and I kept kind of pushing it to the side, ignoring it. So you have that same opportunity available to you to make this what you will. And as far as what you can expect from me, I am going to be offering daily insight into my own practice. So I will be talking to you, writing to you, sharing resources with you that just lets you know what's been going on. What am I finding? What am I enjoying? What's working? What's not? And really, it's an act of solidarity as you are out there taking this practice on. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you look like, whatever conditions in your life, I want you to know that you're not alone in this, even if it's a solo practice. And if you should desire to engage with me, you're welcome to comment on my posts. You can also reach my way if you're wanting coaching and some one-on-one support. I do masturbation coaching as part of the bigger context of my practice, and I would love to be able to share some of what I know with you in a more direct way if you think that that would be of service. So that's what you can expect from me, but mostly it's just my appreciation too. That you would honor yourself enough to take this on, and that you have the open-mindedness, the curiosity, the passion, the desire to really connect with yourself in this way. I know how tremendous this is personally, and I'm excited about the prospect of more of us tapping into that same source of individual personal power and then bringing it forward into our collective. So power to the P. Really can't wait to dive in further with you, and let me hear from you if you feel inspired. All right, be well.